On the night of May 2nd, 2022, the news outlet Politico released what can only be described as a bombshell. Politico published a leaked first draft majority opinion from the Supreme Court case Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization. In that draft opinion, Justice Samuel Alito wrote, "We hold that Roe versus Wade and Casey versus Planned Parenthood must be overruled. The Constitution makes no reference to abortion, and no such right is implicitly protected in any constitutional provision." And according to Politico, a person familiar with the court's deliberations said that 4 of the other Republican-appointed justices, Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, had voted with Alito in the conference held among the justices after hearing oral arguments in December, and that lineup remains unchanged as of the date the article was published. And immediately, the left went bonkers. And if you're on Twitter, and why would you be, you probably saw all of the usual suspects post tweets like the following. "Given that the GOP Supreme Court justices lied under oath when being confirmed that Roe versus Wade was settled law, Congress should begin impeachment hearings to remove them from the Supreme Court for perjury. They all lied to get on the court so they could overturn Roe. The end. Tragic fact. The last 3 Republican SCOTUS nominees lied under oath to Congress and the American people. Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, Neil Gorsuch, Clarence Thomas, and Samuel Alito lied under oath to the United States Senate and the American people." Now, that last tweet is from the host of No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, a title which would imply that he's someone that tells the truth. But if you know anything about BTC, you'd know not to trust a damn word that comes out of his mouth. Then, on Brian's personal account, he tweeted, "Can someone remind me what it's called when you lie under oath?" and embedded a video that features select quotes from all 5 conservative justices during their confirmation hearings, offering proof that they were lying under oath. Now, as someone who has watched every single confirmation hearing since 2005, I didn't even have to watch the video to know that it was a smear. So I decided to pose a challenge to Brian and tweeted the following. "Point out the lie from any of these justices and I'll delete my YouTube channel." Now, if I was wrong, Brian Tyler Cohen, star of the 2016 asylum mockbuster Independence Day, could have taken 30 seconds to take up my challenge and own me in front of his nearly 500,000 followers on Twitter. But he didn't because he couldn't. And since Brian Tyler Cohen isn't going to be honest about it, it's up to me. So let's take a look at the clips and the quotes that were featured in the video and put them in context. First, here's Amy Coney Barrett answering a question about Roe v. Wade.
Do you agree with Justice Scalia's view that Roe was wrongly decided?
I think on that question, I'm going to invoke Justice Kagan's description, which I think is perfectly put. When she was in her confirmation hearing, she said that she was not going to grade precedent or give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And I think in an area where precedent continues to be pressed and litigated, as is true of Casey, it would be particularly, it would actually be wrong and a violation of the canons for me to do that as a sitting judge.
Did you see it? Did you see the perjury?
So if I express a view on a precedent one way or another, whether I say I love it or I hate it, it signals to litigants that I might tilt one way or another in a pending case.
Now, of course, Judge Barrett isn't going to answer the question with a yes or no, because it would undermine the very independence of the court. And even though senators know this, they're going to keep asking anyway.
It's distressing not to get a straight answer.
So distressing, oh. But of course that's bullshit, because she knows how all of this works. Dianne Feinstein has been on the Judiciary Committee since 1992, and for the record, Feinstein has never, not once, voted in favor of a SCOTUS nominee from a Republican president. In other words, this is all a game to her.
Let me try again. Do you agree with Justice Scalia's view that Roe was wrongly decided?
Senator, I completely understand why you are asking the question, but again, I can't pre-commit or say, yes, I'm going in with some agenda, because I'm not. I don't have any agenda. I have no agenda to try to overrule Casey. I have an agenda to stick to the rule of law and decide cases as they come.
In other words, Judge, now Justice Coney Barrett, didn't say anything remotely resembling that she would never overturn Roe or Casey. Sorry, Brian, no lie detected. Next, here's Senator Feinstein asking then Judge Kavanaugh where he stood on the issue.
What would you say your position today is on a woman's right to choose?
Well, as a judge, it is an important precedent of the Supreme Court. By it, I mean Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey. Been reaffirmed many times. Casey is precedent on precedent, which itself is an important factor to remember.
Okay, for clarity, when it comes to the Supreme Court, precedent means an earlier decision that is supposed to provide some example or rule to guide the court. What precedent does not mean is that it's settled law or that it's an untouchable decision. And if you listen to what Kavanaugh said, he was simply saying that Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey are important precedents of the court. He didn't give his opinion on whether they were decided correctly or not, nor did he say that the issue was settled law.
And I understand the significance of the issue, the jurisprudential issue, and I understand the significance as best I can. I always try, and I do here, of the real world effects of that decision, as I tried to do of all the decisions of my court and of the Supreme Court.
And here, Kavanaugh isn't giving an opinion or saying how he would vote on the matter. He's simply sharing part of his judicial philosophy. Sorry, Brian, but you're 0 for 2. Next, here's Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa getting ahead of the Democrats' questioning on the Judiciary Committee and asking Judge Neil Gorsuch about Roe versus Wade.
I think the case that most people are thinking about right now, and the case that every nominee gets asked about, Roe v. Wade, can you tell me whether Roe was decided correctly?
Senator, again, I would tell you that Roe versus Wade, decided in 1973, is a precedent in the United States Supreme Court. It has been reaffirmed. The reliance interest considerations are important there. And all of the other factors that go into analyzing precedent have to be considered. It is a precedent of the United States Supreme Court. It was reaffirmed in Casey in 1992 and in several other cases. So a good judge will consider it as precedent of the United States Supreme Court, worthy as treatment of precedent like any other.
So, as was the case with Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh, Gorsuch spoke of the significance of the Roe decision. And again, what these 3 judges didn't offer during their testimony was an opinion on the case, or even a hint that it would never be overturned in the future. But the left is gonna lie about it anyway. All 3 of Trump's Supreme Court picks lied under oath. They lied when they said they believed Roe was settled law. Then they voted the other way. They should all be impeached.
You need to leave.
Trump's 3 nominees to SCOTUS lied during their confirmation hearings when all 3 said Roe versus Wade was settled law and that they would uphold it, carefully, craftfully hiding their hardline views. They lied. No, they didn't. When it came to being asked about Roe and Casey, Gorsuch, Coney Barrett, and Kavanaugh did not use the term settled law, nor did they promise to uphold those decisions. And that means that Twitter accounts like Brooklyn Dad Defiant and Bette Midler are spreading disinformation. And if there was any justice in the world, they'd be targeted by Nina Jankowicz over at Homeland Security.
Go to jail. Go to jail.
So let's talk a little more about precedent. Here's a clip of Judge, now Justice, Neil Gorsuch speaking about the Roe decision as precedent.
So a good judge will consider it as precedent of the United States Supreme Court, worthy as treatment of precedent like any other.
In other words, you're supposed to take precedent seriously and not just blow it off because you don't agree with it. On the other hand, it doesn't mean that it's bulletproof and can't or shouldn't be overruled. A textbook example would be Plessy versus Ferguson, where the Supreme Court ruled that race-based segregation was legal. And like Roe versus Wade, this is considered a landmark decision. But after nearly 60 years of precedent, the Plessy decision was overturned after the Supreme Court established in Brown v. Board of Education that race-based segregation was in fact unconstitutional. But it was precedent! It was settled law of the land! Those monsters! Now, what's very telling is that the left aren't arguing the merits of the Roe decision or explaining why Alito is wrong in his initial draft opinion. But what they have been doing is consistently lying about what the justices said during their confirmation hearings. And this is an attempt to undermine the legitimacy of the court's final decision. Here's a prime example from Geraldo Rivera from Fox's The Five.
These nominees lie. They go before the Senate of the United States. They swear that they're going to be judicious and good, shepherds of the court and its impartiality. And the minute they get in the high court, they make a decision that is so dramatically opposed to what they said during the confirmation hearings. Shame on them.
Again, Geraldo Rivera isn't making a case as to why Alito is wrong in his opinion. He's complaining that since it was precedent for decades, that it should have never been changed.
The importance it has in American society, and that the stare decisis, that the precedent of these cases, well established, 30 years, 40 years, 49 years.
I can't believe this moron's an attorney. Anyway, while most of the ire is pointed towards the 3 judges that were appointed by President Trump, there are definitely those who are going after Justice Clarence Thomas and calling for his impeachment, even though his confirmation hearings were like 29 years ago. So let's take a look and see if Clarence Thomas lied, and hope I don't have to delete my channel.
I think we all feel strongly in this country about our privacy. I do. I believe the Constitution protects the right to privacy. And I have no reason or agenda to prejudge the issue or to predispose to rule one way or the other on the issue of abortion, which is a difficult issue.
Judge, now Justice Thomas, brought up privacy because, as you know, the Roe v. Wade decision is based on the right to privacy contained in the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. However, constitutional experts have argued for decades that the reasoning is deeply flawed. In the leaked initial draft opinion, Justice Samuel Alito gets down to the very basic truth of the matter. Roe was remarkably loose in the treatment of the constitutional text. It held that the abortion right, which is not mentioned in the Constitution, is part of a right to privacy, which is also not mentioned. And that brings us to Samuel Alito's confirmation hearing. And I have a feeling, Brian, that you're going to go 0 for 5.
Let me just ask you this. John Roberts said that Roe versus Wade is the settled law of the land.
Because of course he did.
Do you believe it is the settled law of the land?
Roe versus Wade is an important precedent of the Supreme Court. It was decided in 1973, so it's been on the books for a long time. It has been challenged on a number of occasions, and I discussed those yesterday, and the Supreme Court has reaffirmed the decision, sometimes on the merits, sometimes in Casey, based on stare decisis.
Stare decisis is the legal principle that obligates courts to look to precedent when determining points in litigation and making their decisions. But stare decisis doesn't mean that cases will always be guided by precedent. Alito made that point by saying that sometimes cases are decided on the merits. And saying that Roe is an important or significant precedent doesn't mean that it can never be revisited.
It's a very important precedent.
Is it the settled law of the land?
It is a precedent. If settled means that it can't be re-examined, then that's one thing. If settled means that it is a precedent that is entitled to respect to stare decisis, and all of the factors that I've mentioned come into play, including the reaffirmation and all of that, then it is a precedent that is protected, entitled to respect under the doctrine of stare decisis in that way.
And this was an excellent response. In essence, Alito is saying that he respects precedent, but at the same time will keep an open mind, because settled doesn't mean that the precedent is locked and untouchable. But of course, that's not good enough for Senator Dick Durbin, who continued to push the issue.
How do you see it?
I've explained, Senator, as best I can how I see it. It is a precedent that has now been on the books for several decades. It has been challenged. It has been reaffirmed. But it is an issue that is involved in litigation now at all levels.
For decades, there has been a constant stream of lawsuits that have attempted to challenge the legitimacy of Roe. And as Barrett explained earlier, where precedent continues to be pressed and litigated, it would be an ethical violation to give an opinion. With that said, Brian Tyler Cohen is spreading dangerous disinformation.
Go to jail!
Now, if you want to see actual dishonesty, I present to you Judge, now Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Here she is during day 2 of her confirmation hearings.
Do you interpret Justice Ginsburg's meaning of men and women as male and female?
Again, because I don't know the case, I don't know how I interpret it. I need to read the whole thing.
And that's weird, because earlier in the day, Judge Jackson said the following.
Since I was nominated to this position, I have received so many notes and letters and photos from little girls around the country who tell me that they are so excited for this opportunity and that they have thought about the law in new ways.
Oh, sure. Everyone knows that children, especially little girls, are fervent Supreme Court watchers. So I'm certain that these children, completely on their own volition, decided to send Judge Jackson letters of encouragement. And now they're thinking about the law in new ways.
Because I am a woman, because I am a Black woman, all of those things people have said have been really meaningful.
So it should be noted that Judge Jackson seems to know what a girl is, and even refers to herself as not only a woman, but a Black woman. Now watch what will go down in history as one of the worst responses by a Supreme Court nominee to a question.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
So Ketanji Brown Jackson, who was nominated by Joe Biden mainly on the basis that she was a Black woman, can't define what a woman is. Ain't that a bitch? Not sure how you're going to adjudicate cases regarding a woman's right to choose, while at the same time not being able to define woman, but good luck with that, Democrats. Anyway, that's it for now. Be sure to hit that like button, check out these videos that you probably missed, and be sure that you're still subscribed to the channel. As always, I hope to see you next time. If there is next time.